everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Sunrise this lovely morning. I'm Chamberlain. What's up?
Good morning. And I guess the sun, I don't want to say the sun is back in Sunrise, but hold on. We've been giving you a full dose of sunshine. Even now, it's brighter. Never mind that the temperature is at 27 degrees. Good morning and welcome to your daily dose of sunshine. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
Well, yes, indeed. Developments here just never cease to amaze a lot of people. I tell you, so sometimes you just wonder what really is going on. How do these things happen? I'm sure by now a lot of people might have, I don't know what to call it, some sort of, well, wait a minute, is there any such thing as Nigeria fatigue or the kind of developments that go on? For instance, this Supreme Court matter that is being talked about everywhere, it just really baffles a lot of people, because even amongst the lawyers too, well, yes, they're supposed to agree and disagree. Then the courts will then give the position which they all will adhere to, because on this same reverse matter, which dates back, you know, some time now that the court has ruled that the president does have the power to declare a state of emergency in any state to prevent a breakdown of law and order or degeneration into a state of chaos or anarchy. So they had that split decision, but they said it must be within a certain period. But that's usually what happens.
So, Chairman,
limited period, isn't it?
The bone of contention in this matter wasn't so much as to whether or not the president had the powers to declare a state of emergency. That was not the bone of contention. The bone of contention was whether or not the president had the powers to suspend a sitting governor, an elected governor. Exactly, an elected official. And I think that was the bone of contention, because prior to this time, don't forget that President Goodluck Jonathan had declared a state of emergency in 3 states, in Borno, in Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa. And I remember then, and I'm sure a lot of Nigerians remember, that the bone of contention for the APC at the time was that the president could not suspend those governors.
He didn't.
He didn't. He didn't. As a matter of fact, I think only recently, Vice President Kashim Shettima had attended the book launch of Mohammed Adoke, which happened this year. And one of the things, it's very interesting times, you know, and one of the things he thanked him for was being able to stand to defend the rule of law in this matter, saying that the president could not defend. Mohammed Adoke was the Attorney General at the time that President Goodluck Jonathan was president. So he told him that he could not, you know, suspend a sitting governor. So I remember
that he didn't have the powers to.
Yes, he didn't have the powers to. So the VP, Kashim Shettima, was at the book launch of Mohammed Adoke, and he raised that particular issue, which became a bone of contention in this administration. Because we were wondering, what exactly are you saying?
The same VP who was former governor?
What are you saying? Are you trying to say your principal has done it? But you know, they tried to quickly clarify that, to say, look, that anybody who imputes any meaning into that is just playing mischief, that the circumstances are different. And before this time, I think the PDP governors had threatened that they were going to go to court. Eventually, they approached the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court didn't sit on this matter until the state of emergency and the suspension elapsed. Then the Supreme Court now has, you know, come out with a decision to say the president not only has the powers to declare a state of emergency, he does have the powers to suspend. That's what we're seeing here now. Yeah. He does have the power to suspend elected officials, but that such suspension of elected officials must be within a limited period.
What is limited period here?
Big question. I guess that will be for lawyers and, you know, for the courts now to begin to determine. But what it means essentially is that you cannot suspend them forever. You cannot suspend them for the duration of their tenure.
That's 8 years.
4 years, because you're elected for a period of 4 years. I want to imagine that that is basically what...
3 years, so it can be 6 months. 3 years, 8 months.
Chamberlain, at least we know that a state of emergency, I think, has to be renewed or so every 6 months or so, something to that effect. But, you know, it's very, very interesting times that we're in, because we do know that one of the biggest stories for the year 2025 was that declaration of March 18 that declared the state of emergency in Rivers State, and also saw the elected governor suspended.
Right?
And for a number of people, it wasn't just the governor. The State House of Assembly members were also suspended. And don't forget that, politically speaking, in the interpretation of things, the godfather, so to speak, of politics in Rivers State, who is the current FCT minister, came out to say much later. He was silent for a long time after the declaration of emergency. When eventually he spoke, he did not mince words that he was unhappy with the president's decision. And don't forget now that, the current governor, he's been reinstated, he's back in office, has now has defected to the All Progressives Congress, and he says is a mark of gratitude for the president who actually saved him. Because what we understand, or what, the FCT minister at the time said they were trying to do, was that they already had all their ducks in a row. They were going to impeach the governor.
So he's happy to have been suspended.
So he's happy to have been suspended. It was like putting, trying to put everything back at reset and say, everybody take a chill pill, and then let us see how we can work this out. So that's basically what a lot of people, the latter interpretation of some of the events that happened in Rivers State.
All of this matter just leaves me, because, a lot of people actually did support him when all of that drama was going on.
Indeed.
The governor. And then they thought, yes, they thought he was on the other side, which is, they thought he was being oppressed.
Exactly.
So if he's then saying now that he was actually being saved.
He was being saved.
At the time.
At the time.
So doesn't it leave people wondering? So before people then jump into any of these things now, they need to think twice. Because usually in this politics, I mean, we've seen it now, not just, this is not the first time. When you jump on the back of these folks, they settle themselves. They have their agreements and throw you under the bus.
It's been very interesting times, Chamberlain, I can tell you, especially when you look at... But this judgment of the Supreme Court has been, well, I guess is going to shake the polity for a while. Lawyers are going to be looking at the judgment very critically. And I think it's interesting that there was a dissenting voice. It wasn't a unanimous decision. That even though there are 7 Supreme Court justices, only 6 of them agreed on the powers of the president to suspend.
Which in this case seems
there
to
was
be irrelevant.
One dissenting judgment. Well, it might be irrelevant, but at least that voice is there to
academics,
say...
it could be used for, in law school, they can look at that. But as long as this judgment is concerned...
It is law. This is now law.
But I'm a little confused when you say that the VP, they were saying, look, it depends, the circumstances were different at the time.
Yeah.
I don't understand it because, look, the law speak about... I mean, the bottom line is that a state of emergency is a state of emergency. It was declared during Jonathan's time. It was declared now. So the VP was saying at the time it was right because the president didn't have the power to remove him or to remove any governor. But now the governor is removed. And so is he saying that, okay, this time is correct, that time it was not correct?
Chamberlain, when you see if I'm to help you explain it, when, I might confuse you some more. Maybe when we see the political actors, we might get to ask them
correct,
where you ask them. But
you can't be seen to be going against
what they were saying was that the Supreme Court prior to that time had also given some judgments on the happenings in Rivers State. More or less because the governor of the state had been operating with 2 members or 3 members of the State House of Assembly. Whilst the other people, I think, were suspended or were ignored, the 27 members who were said to have defected or not defected to the All Progressives Congress, those people were ignored, and the governor was only dealing with 3 members of the House of Assembly. And that matter went up all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court eventually ruled on the matter, calling the governor a despot, that he was more or less running the state like it was a military dictatorship, So they said that already laid a premise of sorts, which gave the governor, the president, room to act. But Chamberlain, I mean, this is how those who justify the state of emergency and say it is different, that is how they explain it.
The impression people have about the court is they don't see the court daring to go against the president in some of these matters. Or even say the election of the president was not right, it was not... has it ever happened in this country? I don't know. It's impressions matter a lot. You know,
well, I
days,
think
so.
for a number of people, what was really, you know, baffling was the position of the National Assembly, because the National Assembly in this matter, for a number of people, failed to checkmate or to make sure that this decision of the president was really carrying the mood or on the feeling, on the aspirations of the people.
What did they expect? What
they did was a voice vote in a matter that ought to have been, you know, yes, I support the president, no, I support, and everybody answering their father's name in the National Assembly. What we saw instead was a voice vote, which is supposed to be an important checkmate in the exercise of such an important power, such as the declaration of a state of emergency and the suspension of a validly elected official of government. So we'll wait and see, because what some people are very afraid of is that this particular power now that has now been validated for the president could be misused. If it's not misused in this administration, another president can come in and decide that anybody who doesn't support him, you know...
And they will not remember that the circumstances were different.
We'll now wait and see whether it will be challenged then, or whether or not the, you know, the circumstance will be more than sufficient. But Chamberlain, these are some of the events that, well, this is one major event, because it's not some of the events. This is one major event. I'm sure there's another major event that you want to talk about before we go on break.
I think maybe we'll just wait until the guest comes in and goes through some of these things, because there's just quite a number. There are a number of them, actually, which we'll hold on in just a moment. He will be joining us, so stay on with us. Welcome back. We've got Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo joining us this morning. He is a member of the NWC of the ADC. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much. It's
a lot of
pleasure.
Abbreviations to deal with.
And thank you, viewers, for joining us.
But he's also a lawyer, so I think I'll just start from that perspective, getting his legal perspective about this Supreme Court matter, which, from a layman's perspective, is kind of confusing. Because, I mean, you know what your lawyers say, justice must not just be done, must be seen to have been done. So lots of people just wondering. In one breath, the former AGF did say the former President Goodluck Jonathan didn't have the power to suspend an elected governor whilst the state of emergency was declared. But now we've seen this judgment which says otherwise. And so one wonders, what's your impression about this judgment, for instance?
Well, first and foremost, the whole idea of the courts is to preserve rule of law. And rule of law is the effective and efficient administration and enforcement of the law in order to bring order to the society. Anytime any branch of government is not conscious of effective administration of the law, it rather brings confusion and anarchy. The job of the courts is to interpret the law, not to make it, not to amend it. And their interpretation should be such that brings order in the society and not chaos and anarchy. You have just pointed out that the position of the court is different from what the AGF has said, from what other people, even the friends of Tinubu that condemned the emergency, the position of the court is even different from them. There was a demonstration of lack of understanding of federalism, of rule of law, and of common sense. Because we are operating a democracy, power to the people. So how can a court rule? And they are putting a constitution that I don't know the paragraph and section they cited, that the power should now be in the president to determine who the leaders of the people are. Let me tell you what rule of law says. According to Professor A.V. Dicey, he was the person that made the first authoritative statement on rule of law. And he said rule of law is the absolute predominance of the regular law as opposed to arbitrary power, and excludes the presence or the existence of arbitrariness or prerogative or wide discretionary powers on the part of government. But you have a Supreme Court that is now giving the president wide discretionary powers, not known to the Constitution, not known to the law. Now, I give you the interpretative power of the Supreme Court. A precedent that the Supreme Court laid by themselves.
Mr. Okonkwo, sorry to interrupt you. When you say that the Supreme Court is giving the president
wide discretionary powers.
Wide discretionary powers.
Yes.
What exactly?
As opposed to the rule of law.
What exactly do you mean? Because the state of emergency, the powers to declare a state of emergency is in our Constitution, isn't it?
Nobody is against that.
Yeah.
Nobody is, nobody is interrogating the judgment based on the fact that the Supreme Court said the president has the right to declare the state of emergency. No. What we ask, the issue here is, does the president have the right to remove elected members in the name of declaration of a state of emergency? And my opinion, respectfully, is no. Because one, it is not reflected in the Constitution. Let me tell you what the Supreme Court said in the case of Atiku versus INEC in the 2023 election, where they told you how to interpret the provisions of the Constitution. And I'm talking about 2023, 19 Nigerian Weekly Law Reports, part 1917 at page 761. The Supreme Court said when you are interpreting the Constitution, you must adopt a polylitic, not a monolithic approach, where you have to take it holistically and harmoniously, one section relating to the other, in order to ensure that you bring out the intention of the legislature when they are drafting the Constitution. In their interpretation of the section 134, subsection 2B, you know what the Supreme Court said? When they gave judgment in favor of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, saying that you don't need to score 25% in the FCT. They said the reason is that if the drafters of the Constitution meant that he would do that, they would have created another paragraph, paragraph C, to reflect it. Meaning whatever the Constitution did not provide, you as the court cannot impute it in. So if the drafters of the Constitution meant that you will remove elected representatives, they would have included the paragraph in section 305. That paragraph was not there. Now, the Supreme Court said that the section 305 granted the president extraordinary to use extraordinary measures
to restore normalcy.
First and foremost, that section 305 is telling you the conditions that will make it ripe for the president.
That's condition precedence.
Yes, to declare state of emergency. What is the extraordinary measures? It has been explained in section 45, saying that the president can derogate on your some fundamental human rights. If you read section 45, subsection 3, you will see where they said that the period of emergency is as declared by the president. The president doesn't make laws. It is the National Assembly. He simply implements. Now, even the National Assembly that has the right to make laws during period of emergency, in section 11, subsection 4, the proviso to it, he said that this power does not include removing elected governor and deputy governor.
But not that the Supreme Court has ruled otherwise.
Yes, first of all,
that one will bow to this one, isn't it what you people say?
No, you see one thing, I agree that by the realism, legal realism school of thought, whatever the court pronounces as the interpretation of the law becomes the law. But this is not a super precedent. Why am I saying that? First of all, they admitted that giving this judgment out of jurisdiction. In law, whatever you say, when you don't have jurisdiction, is a nullity. So the opinion of the Supreme Court should not be disregarded. What I'm saying, they say they don't have jurisdiction, so they just stated their opinion.
It means, what does that mean then?
It means that what they just stated is opinion. But their opinions still matter in legal issues.
So wait, let me just ask you, from a layman's perspective, if they say they don't have jurisdiction, because jurisdiction is key.
Yes, it means that the judgment is a nullity.
But why do they then need to comment?
That is why
they feel not true.
That if I were in their position, I wouldn't have done that. As an apex court, they have the right to just decline the decision and not make any other comment. That is a right given to them, rather than throwing the nation into confusion. Now, what am I saying by this judgment? Can you imagine What it means is that the president now has the right to suspend 36 governors at the same time. He can declare that there's a state of emergency nationwide and that he will use the military to rule Nigeria for a limited time. What is the limited time? So
is that subject to personal interpretation, limited time?
No.
Or is it just 6 months?
The Constitution said 6 months. So it cannot exceed six months at a time, but it can be renewed. So it is, for me, it was delivered per incurium. In other words, not in accordance with the law. Because the law is very clear.
So on the one hand, and I'm really trying my best not to look at, because I'm also unsure if you're looking at this purely on the merit of the case, not whether or not you're also a member of the opposition party. Because some people will say, look, even if the president could, it will be your job as a member of the opposition not to find room otherwise. But taking a look at what a state of emergency, because there are those who actually say, what does it mean when a state of emergency has been declared in a state, or it is declared in a part of the country? Some people say, and these are some of your lawyers who say that what it means is that the rule of law in that part of the state or that part of the country has been suspended temporarily. And so whichever elected official is operating within that sphere, at least at the state level or in the part that has been suspended, have lost their powers temporarily. They really do not have a role. That it would seem that the pronouncement of a suspension is more or less ceremonial.
Well, first and foremost, rule of law is unsuspendable. Because it is from the law that you still get the power to pronounce the state of emergency. So rule of law is unsuspendable.
So what does it mean then, when a state of emergency is declared?
Good. I just explained to you. It is stated right there in section 45, where they said, the human rights are supposed to be sacrosanct. But they say the provisions of the human rights cannot invalidate any law made by the National Assembly in the interest of defense, public safety, public morality, public order, and public health, and to protect the rights of other people. Now I'm talking about section 45. And they are trying to tell you that during the state of emergency, your fundamental human rights can be derogated on. You can be, for instance, told, don't step out of this place. That's your freedom of movement curtailed. Because they want to treat about the security challenges outside, which might even harm you. So you cannot come and say, this is false imprisonment. My fundamental right on movement was infringed on. No. The state of emergency gives the president the power to say, no, you cannot move. Why? In the interest of public safety. So what I'm saying is that it has nothing, as a matter of fact, it has nothing to do with elected representatives. And again, you thought something when I was talking as a member of the opposition. I do not play politics with the law, because the law is sacrosanct and it's stated. I had this position even before the decision of the Supreme Court. In Rivers State, I'm not a member of PDP. I'm not a member of APC. Rivers State is purely transgenderic. There are political transgenders there. Because I don't know whether they are APC or PDP. I don't know whether they are male or female.
I don't even know what I'm saying.
Yes, it means that they are just not female.
They are political transgender.
That's what they are doing in Rivers State. Is we APC or PDP? So, but by the way, what I'm trying to say is that Fubara, remember,
he's not a member of the APC.
I don't know.
He's not in APC.
Okay, he said he's now 001. 001. Okay. Now, what was I saying? I was trying to tell you that in Rivers State, the conditions for the declaration of state of emergency was not even met by the president. There was no breakdown of law and order at all. There was no threat on that. What is the evidence? These things are evidence-based and facts-based. So the issue of even trying to act as an opposition does not even arise. I don't belong to PDP or APC.
Speaking about the opposition,
and I don't even know the party they belong.
I saw an image of some members of the ADC, and they wrote "New Generation." So I thought, wait a minute, is that a typo? Is it new, old generation? Or because those people there you can't refer to them as new generation. These are persons who have been in politics for like, as long as this country is going. It could be like forever, from 1999.
I am a member of ADC.
Look at this.
I am a member of ADC.
So is this new generation? Those pictures.
Point at me.
No, I'm
members of ADC.
I'm not the one who wrote this. These are your party members.
They are members of ADC like myself.
So this is the new generation we should be dealing with.
What I am telling you is that you're dealing with me. I am a member of the new generation.
So the person that
Why are you pointing at them?
No, just ask your.
Why didn't they put your face there?
They didn't put your face there.
No, I mean.
Didn't they know you were a member before they did this?
No. This is really amusing. You know why?
Why?
So if I sit down now and concoct pictures of some members of ADC in order to portray ADC that is made up of only PWDs, then when you point at them, you say, can't you see? Is this party only meant for PWDs?
These are your people.
No, this is a section of the people. But by the way, let me tell you, even God recognizes that you need the old people amongst you for their gray hairs. And that is wisdom. Do you know that if we had men like this in the First Republic with institutional memory, we wouldn't have fought the war? When we abandoned Nigeria to the hands of impressionable 20-something years and 30-something years military men, you saw where they dragged us to. We need a combination of the old and the young.
Those people,
yes,
they've been in politics in this country.
They have been in politics.
They've been governors,
yes,
they've been vice presidents, they've been different things.
Yes.
They've had executive powers.
Yes.
And we know the results.
Yes. And I can tell
you. Are we any better?
Some of them there have not held executive powers.
No, but most of them have.
No. Atiku Abubakar has not held any executive powers.
Vice president?
No. The executive powers of the federation is vested in the president.
No, but
he's the president and vice.
He's a vice president.
That's what I'm saying.
He was assigned major decisions, both economically and politically.
No, you just said assigned. He reports back. The doesn't stop on the Facebook.
No, but
what powers does Shetima have?
He could influence a lot of things.
Yes. What Shetima, the power he has is to deliver lectures, and go, where Tinubu doesn't want to go. Nothing else. I can't even remember who is the...
What about all
the vice president presides over the National Economic Council
Advisory Council. When they advised this President Tinubu, to even slow down, to consult more before promulgating the tax, what did he say? The National Assembly, go on. I don't want to take the advice. No powers at all, whatsoever.
But those pictures,
and that is what the Constitution says. So
is that the best the ADC can offer? Those are the people the ADC wants Nigerians to elect?
Hold on. You're talking about how many members of ADC? They're not up to 12. And we have millions in ADC.
No,
so how can you be talking about...
Those millions are not going to be vying for the positions for where these people will be vying for.
Have we told you we're going into our primary yet?
Are you telling me these people will not vie for office?
Why? They have the rights to. And if they eventually become the only people that come out...
Are you going to vie for any office?
What are you doing sitting down Maokwe and Chamberlain? Why haven't you vied for the office? I would prefer
you... not in ADC.
No, that's what I'm saying. So, when you come to the primary election, you're going to make use of what you have.
Well, are you going to vie for anyone?
You mean me?
Yeah.
I've not made up my mind. And if I am not vying, I am a member of the National Working Committee of ADC. Very wonderful position. And I'm very excited about that position. So that's to tell you that I am in the business of politics. So eventually you won't go to the houses of people to drag them to come out to contest for any election. And you are dealing with an incumbent president who I don't know whether he's under a spell because he has gained the notoriety of doing the wrong things at all times. I don't know why, and I can explain it. And I'll go from legal aspect of it. Can you imagine a president that went to court by himself to tell the Supreme Court, give order that I should be transferring the money of local government directly to them? He went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court gave the order. 1 year after, it's not implemented.
So two things.
I'm just telling you.
When you say
by himself,
he went to court by himself, anybody can approach the court.
That's what I'm saying. So if I had done it, he would give the excuse that no, it's
but there are two things. If I approach the court,
yes,
it doesn't mean the court has to give me what I want.
No, the court
can decide based on the law.
What he wanted. Gave him what he wanted. 1 year after, it's not implemented.
And yet you say...
What do you call it? That's why I said, is he under a spell?
You say, yet the National Economic Council has no powers.
No, whatsoever. I said that's advisory powers.
You know, you say it has advisory powers.
Very good.
There have been times when we have seen... No, you didn't even say that it had advisory powers. You said it is advisory. That's where it stopped.
That's what I mean.
Advisory, when you add powers to it, it means that the power, the advice can actually have some sort of effect, because the people you're dealing with, the executive governors that the president is dealing with or the vice president is dealing with in that economic council do have some powers. They have powers over their state, their legislators in the National Assembly, and sometimes if the president even knows that if he wants to get anything through, he has to, consult with them. Otherwise, things can fall flat at the National Assembly.
Good. My wife's advice on me has tremendous power. Because she knows the buttons.
I'm glad they admit that in public.
Oh, yes, she knows the buttons she can press. But the ultimate decision lies with me. And so you cannot attribute that power to her. So what I'm saying is advisory power is not executive power. Executive power is the power to make decision. So eventually you make decision based on the advice you get from people. And the Economic Council is just one of the group that advises. The vice president, the deputy governors, apart from entering in a sirened convoy, has no more powers according to the Constitution.
All right, as we wind down, are you confident about the judicial system in this country?
I am not. As a lawyer, I am not. Because their judgments are not reflecting rule of law. Their judgments cannot conduce to the order, peace, and good government in the society. Their judgment is increasing the chaos, is increasing the anarchy, which is the result of lack of rule of law. I am not confident in the judgment that is coming out from our courts. Thank God there was one dissenting voice among the Supreme Court judges. And so I have the right to align myself with him.
What's the essence of that, though? If the majority judgment is there and then you have a dissenting voice.
The essence of that is that there is a voice that is telling them this is not the position of the law. So when Kenneth Okonkwo is saying this is not the position of the law, they cannot say Kenneth Okonkwo is alone. Because one of them, who is a justice of the Supreme Court, God bless him, has also opined that it is the way. You know, these judges, they are delivering judgment as if they are standing on the mandate of the executive to deliver judgments.
But we're not seeing lawyers, or do lawyers actually speak up against this as a group?
Well, we have the power as lawyers because we are ministers in the temple of justice. As a matter of fact, the judges are not allowed to come publicly like myself to talk. So we talk for the bar, we talk for the bench. So we have the powers to analyze judgments and proffer our own opinion. That does not change what the law is.
Which is naturally would just be an opinion.
No? Sure, that does not change what the law is. But you know what? The judgment is not fatal. It is not conclusive. Why? In democracy, the legislature, if there is any, because I don't see any now, the legislature has the power to overrule the courts by amending the Constitution, amending the laws, and specifying now in the laws. You don't have the power to remove elected.
Is that tantamount to overruling?
Yes, that is the position of law. That is why the legislature is the bastion, the foundation of democracy, not the courts. And in the checks and balances, you discover that making laws is the foundation. They don't make laws. They simply implement by the executive and interpret by the courts. So the legislature, in any case, no state of emergency is even allowed to take effect except it's approved by the legislature. It is just that we don't have the legislature now. I don't know what name we should give them, but in honesty, giving them legislature is not. We have given them rubber stamp. They have overwhelmed, they have crossed the rubber stamp, approach. I don't know, again, the name you give to these people. Do you know what they said? Akpabio said, the president told us that these ambassadors, it is just to approve or not approve, not to debate. These are the people that have the power to screen and approve. And Akpabio said, what the president asked for is just to approve and not approve, and not to. And I'm like, this government is under a spell, and the spell is moving round. You know what? They came by the cover of darkness.
Well,
and the darkness cannot give you light. By 4 a.m., Tinubu was proclaimed president. And that darkness has followed him. And he cannot give us light. Light and darkness cannot go together.
Well, some of the people who were part of that quote-unquote darkness are now in ADC. So who knows what options Nigerians will be left when the time comes.
I don't know who is in Tinubu's government that is in ADC now.
Those who were in APC.
You just said
who
APC.
Are now in ADC.
You know,
that's what I'm saying.
I thought President Buhari's government was going to be the worst in this country. Before 6 months, Tinubu surpassed it. In the area of the economy, look at what he's doing. Fuel subsidy is gone.
It's density in this country.
We're operating 3 budgets
it turns out
at a time, and he's rolling over 70% of the budget of 2025 to 2026. Right. Meaning 2025 budget is not going to be implemented at all.
But you know, come to think of it,
where did these UFOs
almost every tenure, every administration in this country, Nigerians have always said, oh, well, the last one was better than this one. The last one is always better than the next one. So who knows when
the next one
maybe we will wake up and smell the coffee.
Because whoever comes, even if my son of 6 years comes and becomes president, he will do better than Tinubu. Because he will have empathy of the people.
Thank you for coming on this morning.
Zero empathy, zero economic sense.
Is recovering from Nigeria.
We're back in just a moment, everybody. Join us again. Our next guest this morning represents the agency leading Nigeria's fight against drug abuse and trafficking. In recent days, the NDLEA operatives have arrested a drug supplier linked to bandits in Niger State. They've uncovered secret codeine syrup factory in Abia, seized over 1,000 kilograms of skunk in Ondo, and intercepted opioids bound for the US, Canada, and Sweden. He is the Director of Media and Advocacy at the NDLEA. Mr. Femi Babafemi, good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
Yes, it's always, when we talk about the fight against drug abuse, drug trafficking, sometimes people may not actually understand the gravity of some of these things. But I see here some of the arrests that the NDLEA has made. Talk to us about this Mohammed Sani alias Gamboli, who is said to be a suspected major drug supplier to bandits, who was arrested in Shiroro, Niger State. You said it was after him being on the run for weeks.
Yes, actually, because our operations are 100% intelligence-led, meaning that before we go for an individual, we would have gathered intelligence about such persons. And in the case of the suspect in question, there was intelligence as to his activities and his link to the criminal elements in the forest of that locality. And then our men went for him. That was, I think, November 20th in Kuta. That's the headquarters of Shiroro local government. But unfortunately, he escaped the arrest, but we were able to get almost 500 kilograms of skunk in his house. And then after that, he went into hiding, but then we kept the pressure, just going after him, trying to gather intelligence. And eventually, last week, our operatives got intelligence that he was actually hibernating in one of his drug joints in the community, but a different part of the community. So, and they got there. I mean, they went there in numbers, in our numbers, and then they were able to get him. So, at the moment, he's in custody, and that's one of the things we try to do. Because there is no need denying the fact that there is a strong nexus between the problem of drugs and crime. So, and we're trying to, by taking him out of circulation, meaning that we've been able to cut the supply to the criminal elements, because some of these things they do, they are born out of, they are done out of altered minds, not people acting on their normal senses. And so that's why we try as much as possible, wherever we find these illicit drugs, mop them out of circulation so as to, if we're able to cut the supply completely, and then we'll we probably have solved like 50% of some of these security challenges, and that's why we're doing everything to ensure that we cut access and availability of these illicit substances.
I know that, I mean, in the past, NDLEA always said that we were a transit country. But today, it appears that has changed, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We are still transit, but then anywhere in the world where where a place is regarded as transit, eventually there will be little drops. And in our own case, yes, we have little drops, but then we also produce some of these things here. I'm telling you,
we produce
some of these illicit substances. Yeah, for instance, cannabis, which is the most commonly abused. Like if you go back to the 2018 statistics, drug use survey statistics, will discover that out of 14.3 million Nigerians said to have abused illicit substances the previous year, 10.6 million of them alone abused cannabis. And if you see, if you know cannabis is now, cannabis before in years past used to be something grown in a part of Southwest and South-South, but now it's all over the country. It's now grown all over the country, virtually in every state of Nigeria.
Deliberately or accidentally?
No, it's deliberately because of the economic benefits, and then
it means there are buyers.
Definitely, because it's the most commonly abused. Like it's the cheapest, what people can afford, and then because of the, like I said, the economic benefits of it. So that's why people. But then we are responding to that, not only going deep into the forest. Like if you see, I think 2 weeks ago we went into the forest in Ekiti and Ondo. Were able to destroy them in hundreds of thousands, But beyond that, again, we're also looking beyond the enforcement, the law enforcement. We're also bringing in an initiative which has been globally acclaimed, which has been globally acknowledged as something that will be useful. That is the alternative development, providing alternatives to these individuals, to these people who are growing this cannabis. We're working with a lot of stakeholders, both local and international partners.
What's the alternative?
The alternative development project is to, we identify the growers. That's the growers of cannabis, or people producing these illicit drugs, and then we're able to provide for them alternative crops that they can grow rather than growing cannabis.
Like what, rice and beans?
Yeah, there are quite a lot of other crops. We have quite a lot of, on our table on that. We're working with the IITA in Ibadan. We're working with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. We're also working with the UNODC and other international partners.
Will they make as much money as they would have with this one?
Definitely, even though it may not. You see, cannabis, they harvest cannabis twice a year. But we're looking at something, even if they are not going to make as much as they make from cannabis, at least they are secure. They know that they are doing something legitimate, not something illegal, not something that could put them into prison or to jail. There was one of such people because we had to engage with them, and in fact, I know that in the early part of next year, we'll be launching the project in Ondo State. So, and in our preliminary plans, we had the chairman chief executive of NDLEA, Jeremiah, had an engagement with some of these people. He invited them, and they came with the assurance that nobody will be arrested. They came to actually have an engagement, and one of them said something that is very, very key. He said, yes, what they are doing, they themselves are not comfortable because some of their kids cannot go to school because they are on the run. They are living in the forest where they are growing these things. They cannot come to town because they are afraid that NDLEA will arrest them. And so, you see, if they have something legitimate, then they can be free to come into town to live as normal human beings. Their kids can also associate with other members of the public and go to school.
I think that program is going to prove controversial, but perhaps not as controversial as the statement of the late governor. And it's interesting that it is in Ondo State that you had this conversation where Aketi, the late governor of Ondo State, had made a case that cannabis should be legalized. That there are many other benefits from cannabis apart from the people who are abusing. But I don't want to go into that controversy, because that controversy is still out there.
I will also tell you something. Yeah. Let me also tell you something. the agency has never, we have always made our position very clear. I'm sure you are trying to refer to the cannabis oil. Yeah. The cannabinoids, yeah. We're actually working with them, and in fact today, as I live here, I'm going into that program at the headquarters of the agency, where the agency actually commissioned the Nigerian Academy of Science to conduct a research on the validity of the claims, yes, on that, and I'm sure they are almost done with that, and they are making a presentation a submission to the chairman of the agency today. So on that, and then we have also said in the course of their research, because of their work, that we are not averse to Nigeria exporting this. Do you understand? This cannot be, because the strongest of the arguments has always been we can make money from it. We have never said we are averse to this. We can create a zone where this can be developed, grown, and exported. But to say that we will use it here, when you talk of 10.6 million people abusing this particular substance alone, 10.6 million, that's more than the population of 2, 3, 4 African countries combined, and even some European countries.
All right, let me take you up on the issue of the festive season, because you also noticed that you have been raiding some clubs in Lagos, and also warning young people and partygoers against engaging in drug parties. Yes. I do not know how the NDLEA intends to mount a campaign or mount surveillance in this particular season, because here Nigeria is trying to welcome and open up an economy, a seasonal economy around Dirty December. At the same time, it does appear that, we're going to be doing it under surveillance. Can you help us reconcile?
Yeah, now we did something in Lagos recently. That was the raid at a club. Yeah. And that has really opened a lot of conversations, quite a lot of partnerships. And I know that today, our Lagos command will be meeting with club owners in Lagos. That's very key. That's very important. And we also have understanding with a number of them. We've printed. They will be displaying boards, notice boards in their clubs, warning people abuse of drugs is not allowed in this premises. Sale or abuse of illicit substances is not allowed in this premises. You see, one is the sensitization, the awareness creation. And we're doing that. We're engaging with all the stakeholders to sensitize them, to let them know that this is not just about, we just talked about the nexus between drug abuse and security challenges. And so we need to let them know that this is not just about your fun, but this also has to do with their own safety and the safety of others. So we are working, apart from that, we're also working with the Lagos State Ministry of Tourism. I think our Lagos Command is also having that partnership, that relationship with them, so that we can, on the one hand, create awareness around these hubs, and then on the other hand, we also have the law enforcement. That is where people decide to go out of line, then we with the big stick. So all of those things we're doing first is to sensitize them, to let them know, and then for people to be well guided. And on the other hand, deploy the law, the enforcement of the law.
Maybe Dirty December will become Clean December.
But people can still have fun without taking drugs, I'm sure. Right,
about that, I want to believe, yes, that they can. I intend to.
And without taking drugs. You can have your fun without taking drugs.
All right, thank you for coming in, and we wish you all the best. So, there you go. Don't do drugs, because, there's several bad scenarios that several people have seen on this matters. People always remind us a living dog is better than a dead lion. Well, thank you for watching the show today. We'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain Osor. Goodbye.
Thank you for watching. On Top of the Hour is Business Morning. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.